To confront that terrifying illusion of who you think you are, we must dissect the two most dangerous words in the English language: I am. Every single time you speak those words, you are casting a permanent psychological spell over your own biology. I am a procrastinator. I am terrible at math. I am a night owl. We utter these phrases as if they are absolute, unchangeable facts etched into our DNA. But James Clear forces us to realize a deeply uncomfortable truth. Your current habits are simply the physical embodiment of your current identity. We act in strict, undeniable accordance with who we subconsciously believe we are. In Atomic Habits, Clear breaks down human behavior change into three concentric layers. Imagine a target. The outer ring is changing your outcomes: losing weight, writing a book, making $1 million. The middle ring is changing your processes: going to the gym, writing 2 pages a day. Most of society lives and dies in these two outer rings. We start from the outside, desperately trying to force our way in. But the bullseye, the absolute center of the target, is changing your identity. True, lasting transformation does not happen by changing what you want. It happens by changing who you believe you are. Consider the profound difference between someone saying, "I am trying to quit smoking," versus someone saying, "I am not a smoker." The first person still identifies as a smoker who is merely attempting to resist their own nature. The second person has rewritten their internal narrative. Their identity has shifted. Clear captures this psychological shift perfectly when he writes, "The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. A goal is fleeting. You might run a marathon, but once the race is over, the motivation evaporates. But when you adopt the psychological label of a runner, you no longer need motivation. You simply do what a runner does. But how do we begin to hack this invisible identity? We must first bring our darkest, most automated routines into the glaring light of conscious accountability. We operate on a terrifying level of autopilot. We reach for the phone before our eyes are fully open. We eat when we are not hungry. We lash out before we even process the anger. Clear introduces the concept of the habit scorecard, a brutal but necessary exercise in waking up. You cannot defeat an enemy you refuse to see. You must track the microscopic actions of your day without judgment, simply asking, "Does this action cast a vote for the person I wish to become?" Once you are awake, you must program the machinery. Motivation is a myth. It is a fragile, fleeting emotion that abandons you the moment it begins to rain or you feel slightly tired. Elite performers do not rely on motivation. They rely on concrete neurological triggers known as implementation intentions. The formula is clinically precise. When X happens, I will do Y. You do not wake up and hope you feel like exercising. You dictate that at 6 in the morning in the living room. You will do 50 push-ups. You bind a new, fragile habit to an existing ironclad neural pathway, a concept Clear calls habit stacking. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write one sentence. The coffee becomes the cue. The action becomes inevitable. Yet, all the planning in the world will crumble if you ignore the silent dictator of your life, your environment. We possess a tragic cultural obsession with the idea of willpower. We worship the hustle. We believe that if we just try harder, grit our teeth, and suffer more, we will conquer our vices. It is a lie. The people with the best self-control are simply the people who need to use it the least. They do not possess a superhuman reserve of discipline. They are simply master architects of their surroundings. As Clear so hauntingly states, environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior. Think of water slowly, effortlessly carving a canyon through solid rock. It does not fight. It simply flows where the environment directs it. If you sleep with your phone glowing next to your pillow, you will lose to the algorithm. The psychological triggers of bad habits are omnipresent. You cannot unsee a dopamine cue. Once the brain recognizes the trigger, the craving initiates instantly. Total avoidance is the only mathematically viable strategy for survival. You must engineer an environment where doing the right thing is the path of least resistance, and doing the wrong thing requires an agonizing amount of physical friction. But if our physical space so heavily dictates our actions, a darker question emerges. If the environment provides the cue, how do we manipulate our own primal, dopaminergic urges to actually crave the friction, the pain, and the hard work we spend our entire lives avoiding? To manipulate those primal urges and actually crave the friction we normally avoid, we must first confront the cold, mechanical reality of human desire. It begins in the dark circuitry of the dopamine-driven feedback loop. We are taught to believe that dopamine is released only when we finally achieve a reward. That is fundamentally, biologically false. The highest spike in dopamine occurs not when we experience pleasure, but when we anticipate it. It is the yearning, the biological hunger right before the bite that physically forces us into motion. James Clear frames this reality perfectly in Atomic Habits. He forces us to recognize that we are living in an unforgiving era of supernormal stimuli. The modern digital world is not a mere accident of convenience. It is a highly engineered, multi-billion-dollar theater of psychological warfare. You are fighting a losing battle against algorithms, engineers, and massive corporations that have successfully weaponized your own biology against you. They have hyper-inflated the anticipation of reward with flashing notifications, hyper-palatable foods, endless algorithmic scrolls, and hollow artificial validation, leaving the modern human brain chemically addicted to the constant buzzing expectation of pleasure. So, how do we fight back? We fight back by hijacking the very same circuitry. Clear introduces a brilliant tactical strategy known as temptation bundling. It is the process of linking an action you desperately want to do with an action you absolutely need to do. You are effectively laundering your own dopamine. You only get to listen to that favorite podcast while you are sweating on the treadmill. You only get to open your favorite streaming app after you have finished writing 2 painful pages of your manuscript. You force your brain to associate the agonizing friction of hard work with the immediate, visceral anticipation of reward. But the manipulation of desire extends far beyond our isolated individual brains. We must acknowledge the deep, unavoidable evolutionary psychology of human conformity. We are, at our core, tribal creatures. For tens of thousands of years, our survival depended entirely on our ability to subconsciously mimic the habits of 3 specific groups: the close, the many, and the powerful. If you stood apart from the tribe, you were exiled, and you died. That ancient terror of isolation still dictates your daily schedule today. Clear captures the brutal reality of peer influence when he writes, "One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior." You cannot out-willpower a toxic social circle. If you are surrounded by people who view stagnation and chronic complaining as normal, you will stagnate. But if you inject yourself into a culture where waking up at 5 in the morning to suffer through a marathon is the baseline standard, your brain will rapidly recalibrate its definition of normal. The friction disappears because the fundamental human desire to belong completely overpowers the physical desire to be lazy. We can further weaponize this by reprogramming our internal linguistics. Pay attention to the subtle, toxic way you speak to yourself in the quiet moments. You sigh and you say, "I have to go to work. I have to cook dinner. I have to study." You are framing your entire existence as a heavy burden. Clear urges us to make a microscopic shift in vocabulary. Change have to get to. I get to exercise my body today. I get to build my life. This simple cognitive reframing rewrites subconscious dread into profound gratitude. You can even construct a ritual of transition putting on a specific pair of noise-canceling headphones, completing a sequence of deep breaths, or simply clearing your desk in a very specific, methodical pattern to signal to your nervous system that the flow state is beginning. You are manually turning crippling anxiety into a state of hyper-focused readiness, forcing your body into motion. This brings us to the tragedy of why our worst, most destructive routines are so deeply seductive. They exploit this exact dopaminergic system flawlessly. A cigarette or an endless social media feed offers immense, immediate anticipation with absolutely zero physical or mental friction. When you finally understand this cold equation, the heavy burden of personal guilt begins to fade away. It is replaced by a clinical, mechanical understanding of your own chemistry. As Clear philosophizes, desire is the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in the future. That yearning is the agonizing pain of standing still while your mind demands evolution. We can manipulate the dopamine. We can bundle the temptations and redesign our social tribes. We can make the agonizing work deeply attractive. But there is a harsh, inescapable truth waiting at the end of this realization. All the desire in the universe, all the carefully constructed anticipation and psychological hacks mean absolutely nothing without physical execution. Desire without action is merely a ghost. And to bridge the gap between wanting to change and actually doing the work, we must face the terrifying physical battleground of our own innate laziness. To manipulate those primal urges and actually crave the friction we normally avoid, we must first confront the cold mechanical reality of human desire. It begins in the dark circuitry of the dopamine-driven feedback loop. We are taught to believe that dopamine is released only when we finally achieve a reward. That is fundamentally, biologically false. The highest spike in dopamine occurs not when we experience pleasure, but when we anticipate it. It is the yearning, the biological hunger right before the bite that physically forces us into motion. James Clear frames this reality perfectly in Atomic Habits. He forces us to recognize that we are living in an unforgiving era of supernormal stimuli. The modern digital world is not a mere accident of convenience. It is a highly engineered, multi-billion-dollar theater of psychological warfare. You are fighting a losing battle against algorithms, engineers, and massive corporations that have successfully weaponized your own biology against you. They have hyper-inflated the anticipation of reward with flashing notifications, hyper-palatable foods, endless algorithmic scrolls, and hollow artificial validation, leaving the modern human brain chemically addicted to the constant buzzing expectation of pleasure. So, how do we fight back? We fight back by hijacking the very same circuitry. Clear introduces a brilliant tactical strategy known as temptation bundling. It is the process of linking an action you desperately want to do with an action you absolutely need to do. You are effectively laundering your own dopamine. You only get to listen to that favorite podcast while you are sweating on the treadmill. You only get to open your favorite streaming app after you have finished writing 2 painful pages of your manuscript. You force your brain to associate the agonizing friction of hard work with the immediate, visceral anticipation of reward. But the manipulation of desire extends far beyond our isolated individual brains. We must acknowledge the deep, unavoidable evolutionary psychology of human conformity. We are, at our core, tribal creatures. For tens of thousands of years, our survival depended entirely on our ability to subconsciously mimic the habits of 3 specific groups: the close, the many, and the powerful. If you stood apart from the tribe, you were exiled and you died. That ancient terror of isolation still dictates your daily schedule today. Clear captures the brutal reality of peer influence when he writes, "One of the most effective things you can do to build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. You cannot out-willpower a toxic social circle if you are surrounded by people who view stagnation and chronic complaining as normal. You will stagnate. But if you inject yourself into a culture where waking up at 5 in the morning to suffer through a marathon is the baseline standard, your brain will rapidly recalibrate its definition of normal. The friction disappears because the fundamental human desire to belong completely overpowers the physical desire to be lazy. We can further weaponize this by reprogramming our internal linguistics. Pay attention to the subtle, toxic way you speak to yourself in the quiet moments. You sigh and you say, "I have to go to work. I have to cook dinner. I have to study." You are framing your entire existence as a heavy burden. Clear urges us to make a microscopic shift in vocabulary. Change have to get to. I get to exercise my body today. I get to build my life. This simple cognitive reframing rewrites subconscious dread into profound gratitude. You can even construct a ritual of transition putting on a specific pair of noise-canceling headphones, completing a sequence of deep breaths, or simply clearing your desk in a very specific, methodical pattern to signal to your nervous system that the flow state is beginning. You are manually turning crippling anxiety into a state of hyper-focused readiness, forcing your body into motion. This brings us to the tragedy of why our worst, most destructive routines are so deeply seductive. They exploit this exact dopaminergic system flawlessly. A cigarette or an endless social media feed offers immense, immediate anticipation with absolutely zero physical or mental friction. When you finally understand this cold equation, the heavy burden of personal guilt begins to fade away. It is replaced by a clinical, mechanical understanding of your own chemistry. As Clear philosophizes, desire is the difference between where you are now and where you want to be in the future. That yearning is the agonizing pain of standing still while your mind demands evolution. We can manipulate the dopamine. We can bundle the temptations and redesign our social tribes. We can make the agonizing work deeply attractive. But there is a harsh, inescapable truth waiting at the end of this realization. All the desire in the universe, all the carefully constructed anticipation and psychological hacks mean absolutely nothing without physical execution. Desire without action is merely a ghost. And to bridge the gap between wanting to change and actually doing the work, we must face the terrifying physical battleground of our own innate laziness. To face that battleground of innate laziness, we must first fundamentally redefine it. We carry so much shame. We view our reluctance to act as a profound moral failing, a defect in our character. But in Atomic Habits, James Clear absolves us of this guilt. He explains that laziness is not a personal failure. It is a brilliant, undeniable evolutionary mandate. For thousands of years, human survival depended on energy conservation. We are biologically hardwired by the law of least effort to seek the path of least resistance. When you choose the couch over the gym, you are not broken. You are simply executing ancient survival code. But recognizing this code is only the first step. The true danger lies in how we trick ourselves into believing we are fighting it, when in reality we are just hiding. We fall for the deceptive, comfortable illusion of motion. We spend weeks researching the perfect diet plan. We outline a novel we never write. We endlessly search for the best camera equipment instead of simply hitting record. This is motion. It feels like progress, but it produces absolutely no tangible result. Action, on the other hand, is the terrifying, vulnerable reality of actually doing the work. Action risks failure. Motion guarantees safety. Clear mercilessly dismantles our excuse for remaining in motion. Perfectionism. We tell ourselves we are just preparing, waiting for the right moment. But Clear writes, if you want to master a habit, the key is to start with repetition, not perfection. You do not need to map out the entire mountain. You just need to take the first, ugly, unpolished step. To do this, we must manipulate the environmental physics of habit formation. We must become architects of friction. If you want to build a good habit, you must aggressively and ruthlessly strip away every single ounce of friction that stands between you and the action. If you want to destroy a destructive habit, you must intentionally inject massive, agonizing friction into the process. Put the television remote in another room. Unplug the video game console and lock it in a closet. Make doing the wrong thing impossibly hard. Yet, even with reduced friction, the human brain still panics at the thought of a massive undertaking. The amygdala, the fear center of your brain, screams in protest when you decide to run 5 miles or write for 3 hours. To bypass this neurological alarm system, Clear introduces his most famous tactical weapon, the 2-minute rule. It is a psychological Trojan horse. You scale any daunting new habit down to a 2-minute version. You do not commit to reading a book. You commit to reading 1 page. You do not commit to a full workout. You commit to tying your running shoes. It sounds almost insulting in its simplicity, but it hacks the brain's overwhelm response. You trick your mind into crossing the threshold. Ambitious, intelligent people often fail here. They scoff at the 2-minute rule. They try to build a flawless, optimized habit from day one. But you cannot optimize something that does not exist. You must establish the messy, imperfect baseline identity of simply showing up. As Clear states, a habit must be established before it can be improved. The guy who goes to the gym for 5 minutes every single day for a month is building the psychological identity of someone who does not miss workouts. The guy who goes for 2 hours, burns out, and quits after 3 days is just a tourist. Standardize before you optimize. Once you start showing up, you must protect your future self from your own inevitable weakness. Motivation will fade. When it does, you will try to sabotage yourself. Clear teaches the concept of commitment devices. You must automate your future decisions while you are currently in a state of high motivation. You effectively lock out your future, weaker self. You leave your credit cards at home when you go out to eat. You pay for the yoga class in advance. You strip away the option to fail before the temptation even arrives. We like to believe we are in complete control of our days. But the disturbing reality is that our lives are dictated by a mere handful of decisive moments. Changing into your gym clothes, opening a specific app on your phone, driving past the fast food restaurant. These microscopic choices cascade into hours of entirely predetermined, automated behavior. The illusion of choice is shattered when you realize you only need to win the decisive moment. Making a habit obvious, attractive, and easy guarantees the start of an action. It gets you through the front door, but it is not enough to keep you coming back for a decade. The first 3 laws manipulate the beginning, but to guarantee the survival of a habit across the long arc of a human life, we are missing the final, most crucial element. The action must deliver an immediate, visceral satisfaction. To engineer that immediate, visceral satisfaction, we must surrender to the cardinal rule of human operant conditioning. What is immediately rewarded is fiercely repeated. What is immediately punished is strictly avoided. We are living out a profound biological tragedy. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors existed in an immediate return environment. You hunt the animal. You eat today. You seek shelter. You survive the storm tonight. Our Paleolithic brains were hardwired to prioritize the present moment over a distant, abstract future. But modern society demands the exact opposite. We live in a delayed return environment. You study for years to get a degree. You save money for decades to retire. You go to the gym today to avoid a heart attack 20 years from now. We are asking an ancient, primitive neurological system to make sacrifices today for a reward it cannot even comprehend. James Clear identifies this agonizing mismatch in Atomic Habits, offering a devastatingly accurate summary of human suffering. He writes, "The costs of your good habits are in the present. The costs of your bad habits are in the future. Let that echo in your mind." The cigarette brings immediate dopamine, while the lung cancer waits in the shadows of a decade. The workout brings immediate physical exhaustion, while the vibrant health is delayed until tomorrow. To bridge this agonizing gap, we cannot rely on logic. We must engineer artificial, immediate rewards to trick the ancient brain into repeating the hard work. We must synthesize satisfaction. Clear points to the profound psychology of visual measurement, like the paperclip strategy. Imagine 2 jars on your desk, one filled with 100 paperclips, the other empty. For every sales call you make, or every page you write, you move one single paperclip to the empty jar. It seems absurdly simple, almost childlike. But the tactile visual act of moving that object releases an immediate hit of dopamine. You are manufacturing a micro-reward, creating a physical manifestation of your invisible momentum. This visual momentum taps into a deeper, almost irrational psychological power, the streak. The Seinfeld strategy, the simple, methodical act of crossing off a day on a physical calendar with a heavy red marker, weaponizes our primal fear of loss. After 10 days of crossing off that calendar, the sheer terror of breaking the chain becomes a far stronger motivator than the original goal itself. You no longer write to finish the book. You write simply to keep the red line alive. But the chain will break. Sickness, exhaustion, or the random chaos of life will inevitably intervene. And here, in the dark moment of failure, is where the permanent identity is either forged or destroyed. Clear offers a critical, empathetic safety net for this exact scenario. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. It is not the first mistake that ruins you. It is the psychological spiral of shame that follows. The elite performer does not possess a flawless, perfect record. They simply possess the absolute, vital ability to execute an immediate, unemotional rebound. As you sustain this rebound and the days turn into months, a new threat emerges from the shadows: boredom. We falsely assume that if we just find the right habit, we will be endlessly inspired. But human desire requires a moving target. Clear introduces the Goldilocks rule to guarantee long-term retention. To stay infinitely engaged, you must constantly adjust the difficulty of the habit, forcing yourself to ride the psychological razor's edge between crushing boredom and paralyzing anxiety. The task must remain just hard enough to demand your absolute focus, but just easy enough to remain physically possible. Yet, even when you achieve this delicate balance, there is a final hidden trap waiting at the end of the journey. When habits finally become completely automatic, when the friction disappears and the action requires zero conscious thought, we dangerously stop paying attention. We slip into the coma of complacency. The downside of automaticity is that we stop noticing the small errors. We stop growing. This is why the architecture of your life must include permanent, scheduled periods of conscious reflection and review. You must periodically wake up and critically evaluate the very systems that are running your life in the dark. And this brings us back to where we began, to the core of who you are. The 4 laws making it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying are not just a collection of shallow productivity hacks. They are the mechanical gears of human metamorphosis. Every time you cast a microscopic vote, every time you manipulate the friction, every time you force an artificial reward, you are not merely optimizing a schedule. You are violently rewriting the story you tell yourself. You are shedding the heavy skin of the person you were yesterday. You are proving, unequivocally, that you are not a static creature trapped by your past. By mastering the architecture of these atomic, invisible moments, you literally and permanently become a completely different human being.